Kershaw reaching a milestone last night, and the Lakers finally making a move in free agency. So let's start there. The Lakers acknowledged they were a donut team last season, missing that big man in the middle to guard the rim and run the pick and roll with Luka Doncic. They filled the need with DeAndre Ayton, the former #1 pick who worked out a buyout with the Blazers this offseason. Now, there are plenty of notable names still available in free agency. Veterans Chris Paul, Al Horford, and Damian Lillard are all unrestricted free agents, while a core of young players paced by Josh Giddey and Jonathan Kuminga are restricted free agents. NBA insider Sean tells us who to keep an eye on.
Chris Paul has levels of interest from the Clippers, Suns, and the Bucks. I'm told he had a conversation with Bucks officials on Wednesday. He told the Pat McAfee show several weeks ago that his preference is to stay on the West Coast. He is sorting through options, though, right now, whether it's on the West Coast, a team like Milwaukee. We'll see where his future could go. Al Horford is another major free agent right now. I'm told he is reviewing multiple options, including the Warriors, the Lakers, but also retirement. He's 39 years old. He just finished season 18. I'm told it would be a surprise if he makes a final decision by this weekend. He certainly earned the right to make a decision at his own time. I will say, though, that the Warriors are hopeful about where they stand in all this if Al Horford decides.
Then some strong reaction. It's our take, too.
This is the best of a bad situation right now, I think, with Mike Brown. I think, it felt like it was going to be impossible to win the press conference and win the announcement once you get rid of somebody like Tiff.
Is that it's no longer about, hey, just do the same thing they've done, which is back-to-back 50-win seasons, reach the Eastern Conference Finals. Now it's more. Now, to me, the expectation is the NBA Finals.
He definitely steps into a finals or bust type of situation. That's the expectation of the ownership, of the front office. It's finals or bust for them.
They have built themselves out of what was nothing into a team that really now you consider them a championship contender, which is something we haven't been able to say about this franchise in a quarter century.
The problem is if it's finals or bust and you have a coach that is not as tied to the management as the previous coach, even though this coach and Mike Brown is more accomplished than the previous coach, I'm nervous on Mike Brown's behalf that there's going to be a quick end.
They say New York fans are the most educated basketball fans. I say most emotional. They act like Mike Brown's a scrub. The guy has won 4 championships under some good head coaches.
I know, but it's a high-pressure situation. 50 years of no pressure to try to get back to an NBA championship. But speaking of, this is an educated reporter, an educated fan, Tim. I don't know who you support. Tim Bontemps joins us now for more. Tim, you weren't in that montage because we want to get your reaction here and now. And you covered the Knicks for a long time. What have you heard from around the team about expectations surrounding Mike Brown?
I was going to say I was briefly insulted because I wasn't on there after being on TV all morning. But no, look, obviously the Knicks fans and the New York City in general is obviously desperate to end what is now, as you said, Christina, a 52-year championship drought for the Knicks going back to 1973. And as Tim McMahon said during that montage, there's no question that after Tom Thibodeau was fired after making the conference finals for the first time in 25 years with the Knicks, Mike Brown is going to walk in here with only one objective, which is to get to the NBA Finals and try to end that drought. If the Knicks fall anywhere short of that, it's going to be seen as a disappointment. But to Brian's point about the emotional nature of Knicks fans, I want to take everybody back to 1995 when the New York Yankees, coming off making the playoffs, fired Buck Showalter, a very popular manager, under a very unpopular owner at the time, in George Steinbrenner, similar to James Dolan, an imperious guy. And they went and hired Joe Torre, a guy who was 55 years old, like Mike Brown, who had coached in 3 stops before, like Mike Brown, and who had not won a championship before, like Mike Brown. And at the time, to Brian's point, he was called Clueless Joe in the back page of the Daily News. That was seen as a terrible hire. There was no way it was going to work. And the outcome of that was 12 straight trips to the playoffs and 4 championships. Now, I'm not saying Mike Brown is going to lead the Knicks into the next dynasty in the NBA, but it is a sign that he is an accomplished coach and he's inheriting a team that's got a chance to win, and now he's got an opportunity to try to do so.
Yeah, certainly accomplished. I mean, he's former 2-time Coach of the Year there in the NBA. So we talked about coaches. Let's talk about some of the players because there's still a number of important free agents available. Who you got your eyes on, Jim?
To me right now, Brian, the number one free agent on the board is restricted free agent with the Golden State Warriors, Jonathan Kuminga. He's in a fascinating situation. We saw in the second round of the playoffs when Steph Curry was out with an injury. Kuminga was a big-time scorer in that series against the Minnesota Timberwolves. He showed in the playoffs that he can have an impact in games in the postseason. That being said, we've also seen throughout his time with the Warriors a lot of inconsistent up-and-down play, which has let him go in and out of Steve Kerr's rotation. Jonathan Kuminga, as a result, as a wing, with the athletic gift that he has, is really a Rorschach test for NBA talent evaluators. A guy that some people can see and look at and say that he's going to be an all-star, and others that aren't a huge fan of his game. And now he's got to go out into a marketplace with no cap space and try to get either a deal from Golden State or to try to get a sign and trade deal with someone else. It's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. And it's part of why the Warriors have sort of been in pause mode so far in this offseason.
The Lakers filling their big donut hole in their lineup, agreeing to a 2-year deal with center DeAndre Ayton. You'll remember that last year they acknowledged they needed a rim protector and a pick-and-roll partner for Luka Doncic, and they got it. Let's keep it Lake Show with our NBA reporter Tim Bontemps, who's joining us now. Tim, where do LeBron, Luka, and the Lakers go from here after they added DeAndre Ayton?
Well, Al, first off, they needed to get a center. So getting DeAndre Ayton in the fold is a big move for the Lakers. This is a guy who, if he'd been available at the start of free agency, would have been one of the most talented players on the board. This is a guy who obviously was a key part of the Suns' run to the finals in 2021. He's the number one overall pick in 2018. He's a guy that can be the lob threat that Luka Doncic needs in the paint. And if he does lock in and play well for the Lakers, he could be a real difference maker for this team. However, Al, this is a Lakers team that did lose in 5 games in the first round to the Minnesota Timberwolves, a Timberwolves team that went on to lose in 5 games to the Oklahoma City Thunder in the conference finals. So the Lakers, to improve from where they were last season, they've got to try to find some more perimeter shooting. They've got to try to find some more perimeter athleticism. They particularly are lacking in backcourt depth, particularly on the defensive end of the court. Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, not exactly strong defenders. They need some help there. And just generally, they need to try to find some more depth overall. Obviously, if they have LeBron James and Luka Doncic out there playing well, they've got a chance to contend with anybody, but they need the supporting cast to improve if they really want to be a factor in the West.
Yeah, and we certainly saw that play out in the postseason. Lakers right now, by the way, 7th best odds to win the title at 14-1. I want to keep it in the West. The Warriors, it feels like, have been eerily quiet in free agency. Why come, Tim?
Well, the main reason, Al, is because of the restricted free agency of Jonathan Kuminga, the best player on the market now that Miles Turner has gone to the Milwaukee Bucks. And Kuminga's free agency is going to be fascinating. He's a guy who has shown at times, including in the second round against the Timberwolves, when Steph Curry was out that knee injury, that he can be a player that can make an impact as a scorer on the offensive end. He can be a go-to guy. However, we have also seen him have a lot of periods of inconsistency with the Warriors. That's why he has been in and out of Steve Kerr's rotation, and that's what makes his free agency so interesting. He is a guy that the right kind of person could look at and say, this guy's got a chance to be an all-star, a multi-time all-star kind of player at a position on the wing that everybody's looking for. So, with no cap space out there, Jonathan Kuminga has 2 choices. One, to try to come to some sort of a deal with the Warriors, where obviously things have been up and down relationship-wise with them. Or 2, try to go out and find a sign and trade with another team. But, with no cap space out there, trying to get a sign and trade done is complicated for